today is Money Monday and we are talking about politics in this fragile economy. Tonight in studio, I am joined by former Darogo Member of Parliament, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni in studio. So stay tuned for this conversation with Mheshimiwa. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa, to studio.
Asante sana.
Glad to have you here with us. So how should I refer to you? Is it the Secretary General or how do you prefer it?
Well, I don't know. I will leave it to you to pick any of the titles you think is appropriate for the evening. Whichever way you refer to me, we will be able to engage in the discussion.
But we would love to know about the conversation on the Jubilee party. How do they refer? What position do you hold in the Jubilee
party? I hold
party?
the position of the Secretary General.
Oh, perfect. Now we will talk about. We will
that,
refer to you.
I don't know why it is not clear to you, but I want to clarify it to you. It's that I'm the Secretary General of Jubilee Party.
Okay.
We have had some controversies that were there, but the court is clearer than before. And so you are in order.
All right,
refer
thank
to
you.
me as an SG.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that if you call me by my name, I'll not take part in the discussion.
All right. Now, SG, I want us to talk about 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. Now, as a former legislator who delivered, administered the National Government Constituency Development Fund, what's your definition of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, and how do you define the equitable sharing of revenue?
One is that I've had the members of Parliament, including, I think, some letters that have been done to the Speaker of the National Assembly, with members trying to say that they want the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing. And if you want to know whether a person knows it clearly, you can tell the order. If one is not able to follow the order properly, then you will tell that that person is galloping somewhere in the dark. The 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing. It is it's a principle. And to have it in a constitution just as a statement will not help. To imagine that that is the only resource that you need to apply that principle is the CDF, again, is a really narrow way. It's a very shallow manner of trying to understand the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing. The issue of 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing is to say that every Kenyan who has attained the age of 18 is entitled to carry 1 vote, and you cannot carry 2 votes. If you are carrying 1 vote, in terms of resources, then you should also get, each one of you should get a shilling at any given time, if that's all that there is to share. Or 2 shillings or 3 shillings at any given time. And it is not just from CDF. You know, I see members of Parliament talking of CDF, and you can tell that they don't quite understand. CDF is just that it is the easiest for Kenyans to understand. But the amount of resources that is shared to Kenyans through various agencies, including the county government, including those in the ASAL, the what do you call it, the equalization fund. There are so many. There are so many sources of funds that end up with the Mwananchi that are skewed. And if we then apply the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing principle, it's not just on CDF. It even goes to the bursaries that is being given. The fact that you have 50,000 kids in County X and you have 250,000 kids in County Y, it means that you should give 1 shilling, 50,000 shillings to the county with 50,000 and 250,000 shillings to the county with 250,000. So you are not taking money to areas, you are taking money to people. So that every Kenyan feels taken care of by the government and there is no discrimination. What there is now is even a violation of the Constitution, because we see people being discriminated given perhaps where you come from. There are some constituencies that are so populous that if you do not pay attention to the population size in that constituency, let me rephrase that if you do not distribute resources to the people and you distribute resources to the areas, those populous constituencies or counties will always get disadvantaged. This principle is still the one that should help you or should help IEBC when they come to dealing with the issues of boundaries. You want to have constituencies that are near equal as possible. We want to have, I see now Dr. William Ruto has written a letter to Bunge, maybe a directive or a communication, trying to tell Parliament that they need to get some of the counties subdivided. If you ask me, all those subdivisions should be guided by the same principle: one man, one vote, one sharing. If we then get this entrenched in our system and in our way of doing things, then it matters not where you are, because resources will still find you in an equitable manner without any level of discrimination. Mm-hmm. You will find that people have they have those equal opportunities. Mm-hmm. They have that, they are treated equally. And thereafter you are left to go out and deal with the opportunities that come your way, because you cannot equalize opportunities, but the support should be equalized.
All right. Now, if you're saying that the one man, one vote, one shilling aims at making equitability in these counties, what happens to the development of marginalized communities?
We already have funds that are targeting those areas specifically. Those funds, then if that is, because I was part of the constitution making process of 2010, and we came up with what I call the equalization fund. The equalization fund was an amount of money that was going to go to specific areas for a specific number of years or a specific period, and that fund was supposed to bring them to the same level with everybody else. Yes?
Yeah.
Once you are now on the same level, then you are able to share resources equitably on the one man, one vote. But even as it is now, the fact that we are already giving you X amount of money to try and bring you to speed should not then make it the rule that any other amount of money that is being shared, you still get more. What has happened now is that we have areas that are getting the equalization fund. There are areas that are getting the ASAL, arid and semi-arid support, because the government has a policy to enhance the services, the infrastructure services, facilities in those areas. So they are getting that extra push. But when you come again to other funds, the funds, because of the population, the size of the population in this area is lower, and they get funds that are not pegged on the one man, one vote, they still get more. So by and large, you can actually see in our attempt to try and help some people out of the difficulties that are there because of previous policies in the government, we now are discriminating against this other section or this other number or section of the population. And as a country, and we want to grow together, it is important that that be addressed quickly. This is not a new thing, by the way. I need to say this. I started selling this thing 2017. I don't think there's any other person who has marketed that one man, one vote policy or principle across this country than myself. And I want to tell you that it is one that does not aim at taking away what you're already getting. No, it is not taking from you so that it comes to me. No, no, no. Whatever you are getting, this is the improvement that we need to get. What we are proposing, and it has to come through a constitutional amendment. And it's a constitutional amendment that needs to be subjected to a referendum. It's not a thing that will be done through a letter to Parliament. No, no, no. This is an issue that Kenyans will have to vote on. This, when we were talking about it, is that we were saying, when we now analyze, and this is available in the government records, when we analyze this area and S area and S area, we can see that Kenyans in this area are getting 20 shillings. Kenyans in this area are getting 4 shillings from the same budget. And we're saying, you who is getting 20, sawa sawa, hatutaki kukutoa kwa hiyo 20 ukuje kwa 15, we will leave you at 20. But allow this one getting 4 to be upped to 20. So you don't make your life any worse. But you cannot continue giving this person 4. It's unfair. It's actually immoral. It's evil. You cannot subject people to that kind of discrimination, because what does it end up with? It ends up with people who are not able to go to school. They cannot access education because there is no adequate government support. When they are going for bursaries, for example, and bursaries are given from many sources, not just bursary. Even the ministry has bursaries that they give out to people. So when they go to get bursaries, these ones get 2,500, these ones get 40. When you have that kind of a thing, you are really creating very unfair system in the country, and it can actually end up with anarchy in the kind of a country that we are in. So this is a principle, is a policy that needs to be understood by members of parliament, but it is also something that needs to be pushed by the Kenyans themselves. If you leave it to members of parliament, those who are already getting 20 will not be happy with this policy. So it is not an issue that they are going to agree on in parliament. They cannot. It can only be agreed upon by Kenyans themselves, who says we are all born equal. When we grow up, it is your efforts that make you different from the other. But the government must be able to give equal, opportunities that are the same. When you now live out, you live in maybe the institution, if it's education institutions, or wherever it is, when you go out into the world to apply what you want, then you can be able to exercise your mind. If you are a good business person, you make more money in the business that you take into. But whatever it is that comes from the government, let it come to us on an equal, or equitable basis.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the one man, one vote, one shilling conversation was a part of the BBI, and Mount Kenya region is no doubt a bigger part in population and size. But talking about now Mount Kenya region, how sure should the Mount Kenya people watching this evening be sure that you are fighting for their good when you're talking about one man, one vote, one shilling now, and not trying to wrestle their support in favor of your rivals in the UDA?
Well, if my push for the one man, one vote, one shilling ends up giving us more support politically, so be it. There's no apology for it. For as long as you are pushing for the right thing for the people, there are no apologies. In fact, you allow me, or you invite me to say the following. When we were pushing for the one man, one vote, one shilling, and when we were pushing for the many other goodies and benefits that are in the BBI, not just for Mount Kenya region, but across the country, the people who fought that venture, that document, those benefits that were meant to help the people, were the UDA brigade. They fought it by lying and saying that BBI was meant to create positions for Raila and Uhuru. They are now trying to cherry pick from the same document. They pick the one man, one vote, they pick the issue of the constituencies, they pick that. But you see, if you try to implement one aspect of the BBI without implementing the whole, then you don't achieve that global picture of equalizing the country. Because the document had been thought through in many ways, including making sure that when you leave the university, for those who are still students like here in Kenyatta University, the government gives you 7 years tax-free period. So that if you are trying to bring up your business, however small you start, the government is helping you because it's not taxing you. Removing all taxes, including those of the counties. So that it's after 7 years that the government can now start earning from you. That was to help create employment among the young people. So it's not a document that you can cherry pick and run away with an item here or there. If a young person, some young people are very fast. They can create employment or businesses immediately from here colleges. You see them in 3-4 months, they have a business that is already making money. If then they are able to employ others for 7 years, you are not paying taxes. So you're even going to generate employment, and you would deal with the youth badge that you have in the country of very many unemployed but qualified people. So you are bringing into the market employers and helping them to become employers. That is one thing that we lost in that document. And it is important. We were looking at the constituencies, for example. If we allow the Constitution to be interpreted the way it is today, it says that if a constituency has not attained a population of 164,000 in the rural areas, minus 30%, that limit, it must be scrapped. When you go down and work out the constituencies that have not attained that mark, already we know in the Constitution we have 27 constituencies that will be scrapped. But when you apply that formula to even other constituencies, you will end up to almost upwards of 40 constituencies that will need to be scrapped. What were we saying? We were saying it's very dangerous to tell people who are used to a member of parliament, who are used to MCAs, who are used to electing leaders at their level, and to wake up one day and say, tukisoma katiba inasema sasa nyinyi 2027 kama tutapiga kura wakati huo 2027 hamutapiga kura tena kwa sababu hamuna idadi ya watu ambao wanatakikana kuwa kwa constituency yenu. And the political argument was that is a very devastating thing to take to people. Why don't we then look at this document as Kenyans? See, how do we retain these existing constituencies so that these people who have been used to a member of parliament, a member of the county assembly, remain enjoying the same. But then the constituencies that have 250,000 people, cut them into two so that they come down to the same level with these other ones whom you have allowed to continue benefiting. When that was done scientifically, it came to the point that we needed to create another 70 constituencies. When you create those 70 constituencies, then you distribute them to the areas that are heavily populated, and they come to near the same level with those ones which are sparsely populated. That is still the principle of one man, one vote, one shilling. If we don't pay attention to all these things, we will try and play around with the minds of Kenyans. But 5 years, 3 years down the line, 5, 6 years down the line, you will still see the same inequalities playing out. You will find that some people are able to pay school fees for you saw it. It was reported in the social media. We saw the counties of Mandera, Garissa, Wajir. They were able to put a kitty of 250 million shillings for their kids. So they're able to pay school fees for virtually every of those who applied. You go to another area like Juja here, Roiro. We are in Roiro, isn't it? Or we are in Nairobi, but Roiro is just next door. The member of parliament has over 500,000 inhabitants, residents. When he tries to give out bursary, hata kuona 1,000 kwa wale ambao wanataka inakuwa ni shida. Now just imagine, you have a child orphaned here in Roiro, has applied for bursary, he's given 1,000, maybe 200. You have another child who has parents in a county like Mandera or Garissa or Wajir and the other places where the populations are lower, has already gotten the full fees paid, not just for the secondary level, not university, but even postgraduate, master's programs being paid for school fees outside the country. You cannot allow a country to continue that way. So this principle of one man, one vote, one shilling, it is not a thing that you just write like a sentence, yes, like your name, and it is done. No. It's a one that must be seen to be applying through and through. When you say that you are giving out fertilizer, for example, and you have given out fertilizer to one area, you will need to find out, this is an area that requires fertilizer because they are growing maize. What is it that you require in an area that is growing potatoes? What kind of fertilizer? What do you need to give to an area that is doing camels? You know, this thinking, it's a totality of mind that is not just in a latent statement. Yeah, I see people making noise a lot, and I thank the issue of the CDF because it is the one that plays out and people are able, Kenyans now have understood it. But as a leader, you cannot just understand it kutoka hapo juu. You need to go a little deeper so that as you sit to make the laws and the policies and even to oversight or check and balance the check the government, then you have some depth in that. Yes.
All right, now allow us to shift a little bit from the one man, one vote, one shilling conversation. Now allow us to talk about the Jubilee Party and the wrangles that are going in, evolving inside your party. Now, tell us, are you the suspended Secretary General, or what is really happening in Jubilee Party at the moment?
Jubilee Party is almost like the custodian of the one man, one vote, one shilling. Those who are trying to fight Jubilee are the same people who fought that principle. And the fear that is there is our ability to articulate those issues ahead of others, and perhaps even to bring out the fact that those who may want now to be seen to be championing what they opposed would not want to be exposed. So it's not a question of positions that you are seeing. No. It's a question of political presence, political presence, and what we hold into the future. Because you will see that in Mount Kenya region, like now, for example, because you used it. There before, many of the members of parliament had been elected through Jubilee, meaning that the party is very strong in Mount Kenya region. So those who are in government, if they have a feeling, which must be the correct one, that they are not delivering as they should, and that there is apathy that is gaining momentum on a daily basis, and people are like, exiting, there is an exodus from their party, they will be concerned as to where are these people going to. And since this is siasa, is competition, if they can kill the alternative available, then they believe that they'll find these people available somewhere at a later date and correct them. So this fight against Jubilee, it is because Jubilee will go back and establish, go back to where it was, and people are keen to join to ensure that their party is strong. And that is why you'll see very many attempts. This is not the first one. This attempt started last year. This is when? 2022 June is when there was an attempt to wind up Jubilee and form Jubilee Asili. That again, boardroom battles were done, and that was put off. We now have those who have tried or attempted to throw out the officials of the party by holding meetings that, and even now you can walk out here and call yourself the Secretary General of Party X. That is a constitutional right. But the reality, the truth of it is that if there is a constitution that governs every political party, and that constitution will need to be followed when you want to bring around changes. Secretary General and the chairman and all those other officials are elected in an NDC. You cannot call a meeting of individuals somewhere in a hotel and come up with minutes and then say that you have dethroned others from their party positions.
All right, now...
And this was a subject of a court battle, and the court battle found as much. And they said, in their own word, they said, the letter that had been written purporting to have brought changes within Jubilee was null and void. It cannot be any clearer than that.
All right, now, should the Internal Dispute Resolution Committee rules against you, are you going to appeal?
I mean, you have to exhaust all the avenues that are there, but I also don't see what the IDRC would be ruling against. Yeah. I mean, let me now ask, not ask you, but state it in a manner that you understand. If you're calling a meeting of a party, and the person allowed to call the meeting of the party is yourself, and she is the deputy. If the deputy calls the meeting when you are there, what does that mean? Let me put it differently so that you understand. We have the president of a country, or you have somebody sitting in State House like Dr. William Ruto, and you have another one sitting in Karen, like Rigathi. Rigathi wakes up one morning and calls a cabinet meeting, and they resolve how does that, can that be? If you allow institutions to be managed that way, even for example like here at Kenyatta University, the deputy vice chancellor wakes up and calls the Senate or the council, and they make decisions.
All right.
Those are things it is just common sense. And you know, but at times when you then bring in politics into common sense, and this is why I've been a little quiet on this issue, because in the fullness of time, you will see the folly of the things that others have been trying to do.
All right, I guess now the point is home, and we would really love to know, as we wind up now, where is your team as all these wrangles are going on? Where is David Murathe, Raphael Tuju, your party head, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta?
They are there.
They're nowhere to be seen. We can't see them.
They are there. They don't have to be seen. You know, when you're dealing with the truth, facts, and everything, it's not the masses that you don't need to try and demonstrate. You have the facts on your side. You have everything on your side. So why should you go around looking for people come blah blah blah? No, that you don't do. Murathe is available. Murathe is there. In fact, we have had many meetings. The party leader, by the way, is there 24/7. We talk with him on many issues. We are together. The party is in Azimio. He is the chairman of Azimio Council. And that is why we continue being in Azimio, because that's again another decision that was arrived at during an NDC. So again, you cannot meet at a tree in a hidden place in a hideout and say that you have moved out of Azimio. It is, I mean, again, in the fullness of time, you see the folly in some of those attempts.
Speaking of Azimio, your team has hinted on the return of mass protest next week, 2nd. What happens to the bipartisan talks?
The other team is not serious. I mean, you cannot see the seriousness. You cannot come to the field to play against us, and you picked one of our players in the changing room, and he is playing a position in your team. The starting point for the referee is to disqualify your team because you've enlisted players who don't belong to you, and for as long as we have that happening, you cannot sit in that kind of a team. And I want to tell you this because you need to get a little serious as a country. You have been elected under Jubilee, under ODM, under Wiper, DAP, and other parties. When you went looking for votes, those are the colors you are wearing. You are now in Bunge, and you sit and you unilaterally decide to cross over the floor and go and join UDA. Who are you deceiving? You are very deceitful, dishonest to the people who voted for you. You lied to them, and you came and cheated on the floor.
All right.
What we are saying in this dialogue and bipartisan talks is those members of parliament who went looking for votes under X color and have now moved to another color across the floor must go back for by-elections. Otherwise, we have no bipartisan talks. We will be out for maandamano. It is the minimum that you can do as a country. If you did not win, help Kenyans check the government of the day. If you won, stay with the difficulties that you have, including an inability to manage the resources that come on a daily basis. You are permanently crying foul, or whatever it is that you are.
Right.
You have to live within, you have to live with what you went telling Kenyans. Now you can actually see the deceitiveness of these people. They fought the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. They now want to take it and run away with it and say, and it's no problem. But we have to let Kenyans know hawa watu ni waongo kiasi ambao haijaonekana Kenya hii. Na waambiwe mapema, serikali si sukali ya kurambaramba kila siku.
All right, allow us to wind up.
It's a difficult decision that must be done. So I think there are people who are thinking this thing is a joke. We are not going to have these discussions with members of parliament all over, everywhere. And it is the people in government who have enticed those in the opposition with a K50. K50. That is what they are given. And they now keep crisscrossing the floor of the house.
Can you substantiate that claim?
Yes, yes. And we have people who have said nilipatiwa 50 wenyewe wanasema. And we know. And what they do is once they have the K50, it's ni kama watu, you know, how do you manage a country which cannot respect those institutions that you took an oath to protect because they are provided for under the Constitution and the other laws that we have in this country? I think we as members of Azimio have a duty to ensure that what we think we can achieve, we will achieve. And one of the things that we cannot allow members from our own political parties.
All right, we are aware that the other party is not here to defend themselves from the 50-50 claims.
No. Let me tell you, Anne, this is a position of Azimio as a coalition.
All right,
and we belong to Azimio as a coalition.
Okay.
When we are dealing with matters on the floor, we don't deal with those matters on the floor as Jubilee. We deal with them as Azimio. We don't deal with them as ODM or Wiper. We deal with them as Azimio. And it's important for you to get that fact also because it helps in explaining to Kenyans. You have signed up into a coalition. Unajua si kiosk, unasign na kutoka na unaenda kufanya mambo ingine. That discipline is very important because if we don't have that discipline, even the management of our resources, we will not be able to manage with any discipline. And you can already see evidence of that level of abuse.
All right, thank you so much, SG. We will organize a longer one for an exclusive one, a longer one. Yeah. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it. That is the Secretary General from the horse's mouth, the Secretary General of Jubilee Party. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with KUTV Primetime News. We meet again tomorrow, inshallah, to talk about the state of education in the country. Looking forward to having you join me again tomorrow. Have a good night.